Everyone, my name is Christiana, and today I'm here with Greta, and we're going to be talking all about her life, mental health, her journey. And I just really want to firstly say that teenage mental love was firstly started because I realized how much mental health is really impacting people around the world, but not many people were speaking on it. And I want to say thank you guys so much for watching this interview today, and I really hope you enjoy. And I will link all of Greta's social media down below. So, firstly, I wanted to ask you, how are you doing right now mentally?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I won't say that, I'm 100% perfectly, stable and have conquered all of my issues, but I am at sort of a 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 most of the time. And I think talking about mental health has really helped me and my own mental health. So thanks for asking.
Of course, of course. And I'm so happy to have you here. And I wanted to ask you, when in life, I know we all have like an end goal or like a goal that we want to pursue. And I wanted to ask you, what is your goal in life?
Oh my gosh. My goal in life is to, you know, have wonderful supports around me always. This is something that I think is so important for not only my own mental health, but I think everyone else's. You have to have people around you who lift you up, who you can trust, who teach you lessons. And, you know, honestly, I would just love to live a life where I'm always feeling as if I can be there for others and others can be there for myself. So I think that that's probably my biggest goal right now because I have absolutely no idea what I want to do, job wise in my life. I'm a journalism major, and I love writing. I'm so passionate about writing. So I think I'm just going to see kind of where life takes me.
Yeah, of course. And that's amazing. That's a wonderful path. And, speaking of journalism, you started the Stories That We Need to Hear, and you're the founder of it. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about why you started it and, where it stemmed from and where the idea stemmed from and what you do on that page.
Yeah. I love to talk about the stories we need to hear. It's my little baby. I started the Stories We Need to Hear, gosh, March, sort of during, the beginning of the COVID outbreak. I had just finished a pretty intense, year it was my first semester back in school after doing an intensive outpatient program for my own anxiety and depression. And I, was back in school. I was busy with my classes. I meant to say intense in a good way. I was back on track. I was busy. I'm in a relationship, and that's a solid thing in my life. So all of these things. I was very busy, and then COVID happened, and we had quarantine, and I was like thinking a lot about some of the things that I had overcome in my past. I was actually talking to a good friend of mine, and for a project for this class, we had to sort of start our own like websites, and it didn't really amount to anything. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start a website, kind of just talking about mental health, giving people like little statistics, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Started this website, turned it in for the class, all of that happened. And then afterwards, I was like, honestly, I am going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep sharing stories. So I started with sharing, one of my best friends shared her story surrounding self-harm. And I was like, I think that was like the first story that was shared. I ended up sharing my story. And then I reached out to some people. I posted on my Instagram page, I'm doing this project. Does anyone want to participate, and reflect on their mental health journeys, talk about mental health. And I got just so many responses. And I was so surprised because I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that so many people were so similar to me. I didn't realize that other people were suffering with, issues like anxiety and depression and self-harm. So I started I made this website and I started adding these stories. And then I was like, you know what? I think that this is going to be a bigger project than just, for my class.
Yeah.
So I made an Instagram page, and, I guess my whole it started off with just listening to people's stories
Yes.
and honestly talking to people the way I'm talking to you right
Yeah.
now. And, it's kind of evolving into a bigger thing. And to answer your question, it started out with just talking to people.
Of course, and that's amazing. And I feel like that's where a lot of companies, businesses, magazines, they all start with talking to people, and they start at a platform on Instagram or a magazine, and they just grow and grow and grow. And yours is growing tremendously, which is amazing and wonderful. And I absolutely love what you're doing. And you talked a little bit about your experience with mental health, and I wanted to ask you, when did that start for you? At what age did you realize like your mental health is really being impacted? And if it's and if you want to open up any about your mental health experience.
Yeah. So that's an interesting question. I grew up on a racehorse farm, which is very, very interesting because
Yeah.
I'm really against racehorsing because I'm a big animal lover.
Oh,
But grew up on a racehorse farm, and I learned how to ride horses at a young age. I remember the first time I fell off of a horse, my dad was like, "Get back on that horse."
yeah.
So the analogy that I kind of like to use with my own mental health and my anxiety, which is my biggest mental health issue, my anxiety, which stemmed from PTSD, is when you fall off a horse, you have to get back up again so that you're not, afraid to ride the horse ever again. It's trial and error. And my anxiety had always been with me to some extent, from a young age. But I think I was so, growing up and, going to middle school, then going to high school, mental health was just a topic that was never talked about. So in my mind, I was like, well, when I think of someone who is, struggling with mental health, I think of someone who's in, an insane asylum, or that's the way that the media portrays people with these, mental health issues. And they throw words on people like crazy and, extremely unstable. So, I never thought that my anxiety or PTSD was anything that was like unmanageable. And in my head, I was like, there's no way that, I have any mental health issues. Like, I'm just going to throw that idea out of my mind. I had a therapist since when I was a younger child, but I was able to conquer those events and kind of move forward with my life. I guess it wasn't until I guess I was maybe my freshman year of college or my sophomore year of college, I started to realize that, my mental health was diminishing a little bit. And I was in this, I don't even know if you'd really call it a relationship. I got myself kind of into a situation with a guy that was very toxic. It really put a damper on my freshman year of college. I did have a lot of fun. I did meet great friends, etc. But it definitely is something, if I had to do it all over again, I would have loved to avoid that. I would have wanted to go into college and just not been into that situation. We live and we learn. My anxiety really started getting worse, I guess, going into my sophomore year. I started kind of reliving these moments of PTSD that happened when I was younger, and little things just started making me really anxious. This relationship was making me anxious. So I went to see a psychiatrist, and I was prescribed, 8 different medications around that in 6 months. And her big phrase to me was, trial and error. It's all about trial and error. So in my mind, I thought back to, like when I fell off of my horse when I was younger. I got back up many, many times, and I started loving riding horses, and I wasn't scared anymore. But these medications were not all helpful to me and my mental health. And when you think of the word doctor, you think of someone who's supposed to be there for you, helping you, someone who knows best.
Yeah,
And that's kind of psychiatric manipulation that I fell for. On a lot of medication that, caused me to have these depressive thoughts. And while this was all going on, I started dating my current boyfriend, who I've been dating for 3 years. And hands down is my biggest support, my biggest blessing, whatever you want to call it. He was helping me through it. And I think that he's one of the only people that really saw how medication can affect a person and make a person's already their issue even worse. And these doctors are supposed to be helping you and making the issue better, not adding to it and making it worse. So, at my lowest point with medication, I was having a lot of suicidal ideation. I was, I was at a very, very, really low point. Finally, I got off, that medication. I saw a new psychiatrist, and we started from square one. We started very slowly testing new medications. I, talked to a therapist once a week, and, I really was like, I need to help myself because I don't want to live the rest of my life having these horrible depressive or anxious, intrusive thoughts. I want to be happy. I want to go out to a bar and not, have a feeling that something horrible is going to happen. I don't want to be afraid to see, a person who I think is, going to do something to me. I don't know. Those are stupid examples. This is me just ranting, but, I got off the medication that was causing me a lot of this suicidal and self-harm. And I went to an intensive outpatient program. I actually went to two. First one I went to, and this is a point that I want to emphasize, seeking help is, so beyond okay. And there's a stigma thrown across therapy, thrown across going to a program, whether inpatient or outpatient, to get help. And I went to my first outpatient program. I went 3 days a week, and I just wasn't connecting with any of the people there. I didn't feel comfortable sharing. I felt just very closed off. I wasn't ready, and I wasn't connecting with anyone there. So months later, I tried another one, and it ended up being just a wonderful experience for me. I learned so many techniques and just helpful tips, and it was also like a part of starting the Stories We Need to Hear was listening to the other people's stories in my IOP group.
Of course.
I became really close with a girl who suffered from an eating disorder, and we had completely different stories and experiences, but actually like listening to each other talk and giving each other that advice. That advice was really good for me. And after 2 months of that, I was pretty stable with my medications. I was so much happier. I was, I'd started the Stories We Need to Hear. I, was doing different jobs. My life is just like this chaotic, this organized chaos. I don't know if that makes sense. That's what I like it to be.
Yes.
So that's sort of, I guess, my mental health journey, really. I could go into more detail, but at this point, I think there are some things I kind of want to leave in the past because I started my new chapter and my new,
Of course, and that's wonderful. Yeah, I completely understand. Yeah, and sometimes, the past is in the past, and bringing it back up can just bring back, washed away emotions that you don't want, and I completely understand that. And I wanted to also say, going into your path and your journey and everything, did the quarantine and the virus and everything and being away from family, did that ever impact you, with your mental health, or, did it make you stronger?
Well, actually, funny you say that, I would say that the intense quarantine right after, coronavirus news broke out connected me more so with my family. Everyone kind of came back to St. Louis, which is where I live. because we have a horse farm, as I
Yes,
told you, that
yes,
we all grew up on,
yes.
30 minutes away. So my sister came back from New
Mm,
York. My dad
mm,
came back from Chicago.
yeah.
My mom didn't come back. She lives in San
Mm,
Francisco, and she actually um, has to be really careful around other people
yeah.
because of past health issues.
Mm,
But
mm,
my grandma was here. All of my cousins were here. One of my
yeah.
cousins, who's actually my best friend, she was living with my boyfriend and I for a couple weeks, and then she actually got because we had a 2 bedroom apartment,
Yeah.
and then she got her own apartment
Yeah.
in our apartment building, and I hadn't seen her in so long,
Oh,
and it was wonderful.
yeah.
It was really great, honestly, having those people around while
Yeah.
I was, working on my own mental health,
Of course.
especially my sister and my cousin. Yeah, so I will say, it's really for how quarantine isolates a lot of people from their family, from their friends. I was very fortunate that it worked, in a weird, magical, opposite way
Of
for
course.
me. So
Yes, and that's amazing. I love that happened for you. And with your family around, I know you said it helped you connect with them. And is your family really supportive of you, with your mental health journey? And in addition, also when you're going through a hard time, are they someone who you can lean on?
So that's an interesting question. My family and I have a very, um, we have a very, it's a totally normal, great,
Of course, of course.
family relation. We've had some issues in the past.
Yeah,
My parents have had some issues, but as I said, the past is the
of
past.
course.
We've moved on
Yes.
from that. I would say my family doesn't exactly. I don't know if they really believe. My sister definitely does, but my dad and my
Mm-hmm.
mom, I don't know if they take mental health as
Mm-hmm.
seriously as it should be taken. I think that they sort of shy away from these topics.
Yeah.
I know that my dad, is someone who falls victim to the stigma surrounding medication.
Yeah.
And he also, I think, doesn't fully understand how real anxiety is.
So
They grew up in a different time,
of
and
course. Yeah.
also my dad never grew up. He grew up in a very small town
Wow.
where mental health was not talked about.
Yeah.
People didn't talk about this and that. It was very
Yeah.
hush hush.
Yeah.
And my mom, she's a storyteller. She owns her own bookstore in San Francisco, so
Wow.
she loves telling stories.
Yeah.
She loves reading
Yeah.
stories. Um, I don't particularly talk about my mental health with my mom. Um, that's a decision I guess I sort of made when I decided like boundaries that were
Mm-hmm.
gonna, you know, come within our
Yes.
relationship.
Yes.
There's some stuff that I just want to keep to myself
Yeah.
from my
Yeah.
parents, and
Yeah.
I hope that maybe from them realizing how I'm such an advocate for mental health,
Yeah.
and them seeing me go to IOP, them seeing
Of
me
course.
try out different medications, and finally
Yeah.
kind of get to like a 90%
Mm-hmm.
happy, not
Yeah.
anxious place.
Yeah.
Um, I hope that they have started to believe more in mental health and how
Yes.
important conversations are.
Of course.
But I don't really know where they exactly stand on that right
Same. I
now.
completely, I'm again, I completely understand. I feel like so many parents, and nothing against them, of course, but so many parents, they didn't grow up in that environment. It was a different time. Mental health wasn't, no one spoke about it. And even now, still today, mental health is rarely even talked about in schools. So, moreover, to imagine when they were in school. And I completely agree. And I totally understand. And I feel like that's what stems a lot of people from not feeling comfortable talking about it, or thinking that mental health means insane asylum, crazy asylum, and they put that name behind it, or a patient, or like you said, IOP, and going to places where they take care of people, they think of it as someone who's insane, and it's so sad that that's the stigma behind it, but that is really true. I feel like
Yeah.
it's so true for a lot of parents. And I wanted to say, you talked recently about the social dilemma and what you thought about the new Netflix series that yeah, that came out. And I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about the movie and today's society, with especially with social media, and you even made a video about what causes us to like and not like a photo, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about that.
Yeah. I find the whole concept of likes fascinating.
Yes.
I always have, because I reflect back on my own experience with Instagram. Instagram is like the only platform that I really use,
Yeah.
other than Snapchat,
Yeah.
which I don't think has the option to do likes or anything like that.
Of course.
Um, so, I mean, I remember being like 12 years old when Instagram first was a thing, posting like a picture of, I don't know, a flower or something, and getting 5 likes
Yeah.
from close friends,
Yeah.
and those were like the only people I even followed.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, what happened from that time where Instagram was sort of just this place to share photos,
Yeah.
to where Instagram became, I guess, this place to give ourselves validation and
Thank you.
compare ourselves to others.
Yes.
And you know, you can put on so many different, you can put on any persona you want over social media.
Of course.
And I just, for me, I wonder what causes us to, you know, like a photo or just scroll past it.
Of course.
What intrigues us about, you know, a photo or an Instagram account? Is it the way this person looks? Is it the way this person acts? Is it the captions they have? Is it the amount of comments they get? Is it the amount of likes that they get? Um, and I remember being in like 10th grade and not getting as many likes as I thought I would on a photo, and it completely like crushed me in the rest of my day. And I deleted the photo, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so embarrassing. I was, you know, I was 16 at the time. That was so long ago.
Yeah.
My thoughts on that have changed a lot since then as I've matured. But yeah, it's just such an interesting concept. Like, oh my gosh, like if I don't get this amount of likes, that's embarrassing, or like that's something to be like frowned upon, because likes are what this world has, you know, come to. It reminds me of the episode of I don't know if you've seen the show Black Mirror.
Yes, the one with Nosedive with the pastel colors. Yeah, I love
What
it.
it reminds me,
Yes.
the real life Nosedive, Black Mirror. Yeah, crazy. I loved the Social Dilemma though. Oh my gosh, it was so crazy to watch.
Of course.
Yeah. I think that Instagram is wonderful for as an outlet for some people, and as a platform to advocate for mental health and so many other things. But I think it also can be the result of, you know, kind of, I don't want to use that word, can be the result of a lot of insecurity and these expectations and standards that we think that we need to meet. So it's definitely a two-way sort of street.
Of course, and wow, you have no idea how much I agreed with everything that you said. Like, for you, it was 12. For me, I remember that Instagram was a thing that when we were 10, when I was 10. And I remember the trend was posting like The Fault in Our Stars book cover, or a coffee that had a cool design on the top. Yeah, and then it went from that to now people people are getting jobs and careers off of modeling on these apps. And I don't even know when that switch happened. I guess I missed it because it just happened out of nowhere. And I'm in high school now. I'm a senior, but that is extremely, extremely accurate, because when you see someone with 1,000 followers and 700 likes, and their friends and people randomly commenting, "You're so pretty, you're beautiful, this," and it's almost like your value is based on how many likes and followers you have. And then if someone else in our grade has 50 followers and the Instagram, and they just feel like posting whatever they want, but they get 2 likes, it's almost as like, wow, look at that person only got 2 likes. And it's really sad to see that that is what society is, really what is defined by right now, by likes. Like, is it really that big? I completely agree, basically. And and I wanted to say, in regards to this, do you believe that social media is toxic as well? It can be a very toxic environment.
Oh, I completely do.
Okay, yeah.
100%. I think social media can be incredibly toxic, incredibly dangerous in terms of like how it can, affect your mental health.
Yeah.
I I see, these accounts of just, random girls, no one that I could even remember the name, and not like a celebrity, but there's this the Explore page, for example.
Of course.
And you scroll down and you're like, oh my God, like this girl, her body is so perfect. Like I need to, how do I look like that? Like, why do I look like this? Or you see this girl and you're like, oh my God, her face is like, her chin is perfectly sculpted. Or you see another girl on a lavish vacation and you're like, oh my God, I wish I had more money. You see, someone with this job and you're like, oh my God, I wish I had this job, or, what job, or whatever it is. And you start comparing yourself to people and you start feeling horrible about yourself. And it's just this cycle that keeps happening because we keep refreshing the Explore page. And I think Instagram is incredibly toxic. I've had to back away from Instagram on multiple different occasions and just delete it from my phone because I was just getting I was like, gosh, this person is way more creative than me. This person is way more, more attractive than me. This person has the job of my dreams, like this and that. And it's like, what is this cycle that you are continuing to put yourself through? It's a merry-go-round. I've grown a lot since. I used to be so super obsessed with that, but firsthand, I can completely attest to this toxicity that Instagram definitely kind of falls into. So,
of course, no, and I again completely agree. It is like a merry-go-round, just like you said, and it's this toxic cycle of refreshing your page, seeing someone that has this perfect life, perfect grades, perfect handwriting, even though that's so random. But like,
it's never.
Yes, exactly. And hair, face. I remember even when people were talking about acne and how they were comparing themselves to people who had this perfect glowy skin, and and to the point where now 10-year-olds are editing their photos, and that is crazy to believe because when have you ever when have you ever seen a 10-year-old downloading Photoshop on their cell phone? It's in Facetune. And
you're so right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so incredibly toxic, and I just want to kind of like add in this little thing. I was scrolling through Instagram and I see an app, like an ad for an app. And the app, I don't remember the name, but basically they had a couple, and on the app they were showing you how you can drag abs to the guy and how you can drag lighter skin to the girl and longer hair. And I was beyond shocked. The fact that one, they were advertising on Instagram just showed clearly what their exact goal was, and and what they're trying to attract and what they're trying to do, and it was just so sad to me. And just like you said, you can, yes, you can create this entire persona on Instagram. Like you could just be, yes, coming from a day, an incredibly hard day, and then post 1 second of you smiling, and then people think your life is perfect, and you're really breaking down when you're at home. And thank you so much. Yeah, that what you said was amazing. And I wanted to say, do you have any like advice for someone right now who's going through anxiety, depression? They feel alone, they feel trapped, and they feel like social media is too much for them, or they're too influenced. Do you have any advice for them?
So, in terms of anxiety and depression, advice is, something that I've been working super hard on is staying in the present. And that is, so many people will hear that phrase, stay in the present, and they'll be like, okay, shut up. That's impossible not to focus on the future, focus on what you want to do with your life, who you want to get married to, who you want to, date, where you want to live, all of that stuff. What's going to happen in your future? And then, oh my gosh, why did this happen in my past? If I had to go back and do it all over again, I would change this. And that is essentially the roots of anxiety. I like to do this thing where I guess this is my best advice I can really give because this has been one of the main things that has worked for me. Other than, having having people that you can trust, having people that you can talk to and openly talk about these issues. I think that's very important. Obviously, first and foremost. But secondly, something that I do is I sort of think of my anxiety or depression as a moving train, um, a moving car, a moving bicycle. Anything really that moves pretty fast. And that if you're sitting on the side of a road watching it, or in your car watching that train go by, it's going to pass you. It could run out of gas. It could. Who knows? There's all these possibilities, but it will pass you eventually. And everything in life will pass. Like this too shall pass. You will never be engulfed in your thoughts for forever. So you're thinking about something that is making you really sad. If you don't know why you're feeling sad, if you don't know why you're feeling anxious, this too shall pass. It'll pass just like a moving train or a car. Yeah. And it's important to picture yourself as the person on the outside looking at that moving object, and not the person inside moving with that object. Definitely. So that is something that I would encourage people to try to do.
Of course, and that is amazing. And I wanted to lastly say thank you so much, Greta, for sitting down and speaking with me. And everything that you said was absolutely wonderful. It's so true. From comparing our lives on social media, comparing our hair, nails, facial structure, just like you said, relationships, seeing this relationship on our social media accounts and in front of our screens and thinking it's perfect and wanting a relationship just like that. And I think that is absolutely wonderful what you said. The advice you gave was amazing. And I hope that everyone who watched this, I really hope that you find within yourself, happiness and love. And even if it's not 100% happiness, at least it's like a path towards becoming 100% happy, because I feel like that's a goal for a lot of people in life, just find that happiness. Yes. And
yeah. And I just wanted to say, you mentioned you're a senior in high school.
Yes.
That is incredible. I think you are doing just such a wonderful thing at the perfect age. People in high school, people in middle school need to hear that it's okay to talk about needing help or maybe not being perfect. Especially since this generation has become so much more anxious and depressed due to the media. So I think what you're doing is just so incredible.
Thank you.
I certainly cannot imagine being able to talk about mental health when I was a senior in high school.
Yeah, thank you so much. And just like you,
really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I just like you, I thought of this right as soon as quarantine started, but I was a little bit skeptical, with putting it out there, because I was like, how many people see it? How many people actually care? But the fact that it can grow a community really makes me so happy. And thank you so much. I'm so inspired by your page. It's absolutely amazing. And yes, of course. And again, to everyone, I really hope that again, you're happy within yourself, and to be happy, and know that you're not alone. Know that mental health is important, just like Greta was saying. And I really hope you enjoyed this interview. And I will link the stories we need to hear down below, and I will also link her Instagram page so that you guys can definitely check it out. And I really hope you enjoyed this and have a wonderful day. Yes.